I was just the camp cook. But when I served fried chicken, German POWs started crying at the table. The world, in its deepest fractures, often demands we choose sides, drawing lines in the sand, or more accurately, in the mud and blood of battlefields. It asks us to see the uniform, the flag, the ideology, and to forget the face beneath. Yet history, in its quiet corners, holds echoes of moments when those lines blurred, when the labels of enemy faltered, and something profoundly, unexpectedly human shone through. We often imagine war as a monolithic wave of hatred, a relentless tide of destruction that washes away all tenderness, all recognition of shared humanity. But this is not the whole truth. There are whispers in the archives, stories of an empathy so potent, so disarming, that it could pierce through the thickest armor of animosity, reaching the raw, vulnerable core of another soul. Consider a prisoner of war camp, not the infamous brutal ones, but a place of stark, weary containment. Here, men stripped of their freedom, their purpose, and their dignity, existed in a liminal space, defined by their capture and their former allegiance. They were Germans, in an American camp, the very embodiment of the foe. And then there was the cook, not a general, not a diplomat, not even a frontline soldier, but a man whose daily duty involved the most basic, fundamental act of human sustenance, preparing food. He was, by his own humble admission, just the camp cook, a figure often overlooked, his role seemingly peripheral to the grand narrative of conflict and resolution. Yet his story, or rather the story of a single meal he prepared, carries a weight that belies its simplicity, challenging our preconceived notions of what war truly means for those caught within its unforgiving grip. Imagine the sterile routine, the bland rations, the constant hum of uncertainty and longing that permeated the air of such a camp. Day after day, the same faces, the same walls, the same gnawing ache for home. Then, one day, something shifted. A scent, unfamiliar and deeply nostalgic, began to drift through the mess hall. It was the aroma of fried chicken, a dish perhaps synonymous with comfort, celebration, and family gatherings for many. For these German prisoners, far from their own homes, their own culinary traditions, this American staple might have seemed an alien offering. But its preparation, the care taken, the very act of serving something beyond mere sustenance, held an unspoken message. It was a gesture, perhaps unconscious, perhaps deliberate, that momentarily transcended the barbed wire and the uniforms. The scene that unfolded next was not one of defiance, nor of anger, nor even of simple gratitude. It was something far more profound, a raw, unbidden outpouring of emotion that stunned even the cook himself. As he watched these men, his supposed enemies, sit down to eat, he saw something break within them. Not just a crack in their composure, but a floodgate opening, revealing the deep, unaddressed sorrow and yearning beneath their hardened exteriors. They began to cry at the table, not in protest, but in a silent, collective release. Why did a plate of fried chicken elicit such a powerful, visceral response from men who had faced the horrors of battle, the indignities of capture, and the crushing weight of defeat? What hidden chords did this seemingly ordinary meal strike within their souls, causing such a profound, unexpected display of vulnerability? This moment, seemingly small and insignificant in the vast tapestry of a global war, reveals a crucial truth, that beneath the uniforms, the ideologies, and the bitter divisions, there remains a shared human core, susceptible to the simplest acts of kindness. It speaks to the universal yearning for comfort, for recognition, and for the echoes of a life that war had brutally interrupted. This is not a story of grand heroism on the battlefield, but of a quiet, almost accidental heroism in the mess hall. It is about how a single thoughtful gesture, born from the hands of an ordinary man, could momentarily dissolve the immense chasm of conflict, revealing the fragile, enduring spirit of humanity. We are about to delve into the heart of such moments, exploring how, even in the darkest hours, compassion finds a way to survive, leaving an indelible mark on those who witness it and on those who carry its memory forward. Amidst the deafening cacophony of artillery and the relentless grind of trench warfare, where the very air tasted of fear and gunpowder, individual acts of unforeseen compassion frequently punctured the brutal narrative. Imagine, for instance, a soldier pinned down by enemy fire, witnessing a medic from the opposing side bravely crawl into the open to tend to a fallen comrade. In that fleeting moment, the abstract concept of enemy might momentarily dissolve, replaced by the stark reality of shared peril and the universal instinct to preserve life. It's a profound observation that the most harrowing environments often paradoxically create the conditions for the most unexpected displays of humanity, stripping away the layers of indoctrination and revealing the raw, unadorned self. Beyond the immediate clash of arms, consider the intricate dance of survival during a brutal winter campaign. Two patrols, one German, one American, might find themselves caught in a sudden blinding blizzard, utterly disoriented and facing the same existential threat from the elements. The chilling wind and biting snow become a common adversary, momentarily eclipsing the political and nationalistic divides. What then unfolds is not dictated by orders or propaganda, but by an ancient primal understanding. Cooperation offers a greater chance of survival than continued hostility. A shared dugout, a whispered offer of warmth from a meager fire, or even the silent exchange of a ration bar can forge an ephemeral yet intensely real bond that transcends the uniforms and the flags. In such critical junctures, the psychological landscape of conflict undergoes a subtle yet powerful transformation. The individual on the opposing side ceases to be merely a silhouette to be targeted, a faceless abstraction of an ideology. Instead, they become another human being, shivering, suffering, perhaps even silently grieving for a distant home or family. This reversal of perspective, however fleeting, underscores a fundamental truth about human nature. Our capacity for empathy is not entirely extinguished by the pressures of war. It might be suppressed, distorted, or deemed a dangerous weakness, but it never fully vanishes, lying dormant until a particular set of circumstances allows it to surface. Furthermore, the reverberations of such encounters often extend far beyond the battlefield. For the soldier who offered a helping hand, or for the one who received it, these moments become deeply etched into memory, sometimes haunting, sometimes comforting. They challenge the simplistic narratives of good versus evil, leaving behind a complex tapestry of experience that defies easy categorization. How does one reconcile the act of trying to kill an opponent one day with offering them succor the next? This cognitive dissonance is a testament to the immense psychological burden of war, yet it also highlights the resilience of the human spirit to find and create meaning, even in the most destructive environments. This phenomenon suggests that empathy, even in its most nascent forms, acts as a powerful counter-narrative to the dehumanization inherent in warfare. It reminds us that every uniform conceals a unique individual with their own fears, hopes, and vulnerabilities. When you encounter someone stripped of their weapons and the protective veneer of their role, and recognize a flicker of your own humanity reflected in their eyes, the entire framework of conflict shifts. It's a whisper in the storm, a subtle affirmation that despite all efforts to divide and conquer, a shared essence persists. Ultimately, these stories are not merely historical footnotes. They serve as profound explorations into the resilience of our compassionate instincts. They invite us to consider the profound weight of individual choice when faced with the stark realities of life and death, and how even the smallest gesture can carry an immense moral significance. The very act of acknowledging an enemy's suffering, of recognizing their inherent worth, speaks to an enduring truth about what it means to be human, even amidst the most profound expressions of inhumanity. The profound impact of a simple meal, particularly one imbued with the warmth of home, delves deeply into the intricate psychology of human deprivation. When individuals are stripped of their freedom, their identity, and the comforting rituals of daily life, their existence often shrinks to a stark focus on basic survival. Food, in such contexts, typically serves as mere fuel, devoid of emotional resonance or cultural significance. Consequently, the sudden introduction of a dish like fried chicken, resonating with memories of family gatherings, celebratory meals, and the general normalcy of a life far removed from the confines of a prison camp, acts as a potent emotional catalyst. It's not merely the taste or the caloric value, it's the symbolic weight of care, of a world remembered, abruptly re-entering a reality defined by its absence. This unexpected culinary offering initiates a powerful cognitive dissonance within the minds of the prisoners. For months, perhaps years, they have been conditioned to view their captors as an abstract other, an enemy devoid of shared humanity. Their daily interactions would have reinforced this perception, emphasizing the power dynamic and the chasm between victor and vanquished. Yet, here was an act of deliberate, almost tender preparation from one of them. Now, how does one reconcile the image of a faceless oppressor with the reality of a person who painstakingly prepared a meal associated with comfort and home? This jarring contrast shatters the carefully constructed mental barriers, forcing an immediate visceral confrontation with the idea that the enemy might not be entirely monstrous, but capable of human gesture. Moreover, the very act of othering is fundamental to sustaining warfare. Propaganda relentlessly paints the adversary as less than human, simplifying complex geopolitical conflicts into a binary of good versus evil. This dehumanization allows soldiers to perform acts they might otherwise find morally reprehensible. When the camp cook, an unassuming figure, chose to prepare and serve something so personally resonant, he inadvertently, or perhaps intuitively, dismantled a piece of that dehumanizing edifice. He didn't see German soldiers, he saw hungry men, men who likely missed their mother's cooking, their wives' hospitality, the simple joy of a shared family meal. This subtle shift in perception from enemy to fellow human is where the true power of the gesture lay. Consider the significance of the source. This act of kindness did not originate from a high-ranking officer, a diplomatic envoy, or a figure of authority making a grand statement. It came from an ordinary individual, a cook whose primary function was utilitarian. This makes the gesture profoundly more impactful. It wasn't a strategic maneuver or a calculated act of propaganda. It was an organic, personal choice. Such an act, arising from the unassuming corners of daily life, suggests that the capacity for compassion isn't exclusive to heroes or leaders, but resides within the fabric of everyday people, ready to emerge even under the most arduous circumstances. It speaks to a spontaneous, unbidden humanity that transcends official directives and ideological divides. The tears that flowed were not simply tears of hunger or relief. They were a profound acknowledgement of being seen, of having their humanity momentarily restored in a place designed to diminish it. It was an unspoken language of care, a momentary truce in the battle of hearts and minds. The fried chicken, therefore, became more than food. It transformed into a symbol of recognition, a fleeting glimpse of empathy that confirmed their existence as individuals, not merely statistics or prisoners of war. This visceral emotional release stemmed from the sudden, overwhelming realization that even in captivity, Even amidst the backdrop of a brutal global conflict, a stranger could offer a piece of shared human experience, shattering the isolation and reminding them of the world they had lost and desperately longed for. The reverberations of such an unexpected gesture extend far beyond the immediate moment, etching themselves into the very fabric of memory for all involved. For the recipient, this act, however fleeting, often becomes a profound counter-narrative to the prevailing trauma of conflict. It introduces an anomaly into a landscape of hostility, challenging the monolithic perception of the enemy and injecting a sliver of humanity where none was anticipated. This cognitive dissonance can be unsettling, yet ultimately transformative, compelling individuals to reconcile the brutal realities of war with the undeniable presence of compassion. It's akin to finding a single, vibrant bloom pushing through scorched earth, a testament to life's stubborn persistence. Furthermore, consider the psychological imprint on those who witnessed such an event, even if they were not direct participants. Observing an act of unexpected kindness between adversaries can profoundly alter one's understanding of the conflict itself. It complicates the simplistic narratives of good versus evil, forcing a re-evaluation of assumptions and prejudices. This moral complexity can be a heavy burden or a profound gift, depending on how individuals integrate it into their worldview. For some, it might sow seeds of doubt about the righteousness of their cause. For others, it might reinforce an inherent belief in human goodness, even amidst profound depravity. The memory becomes a lens, subtly shifting the perspective through which all subsequent experiences of war are viewed. Building on this, the long-term impact on the giver is equally compelling. For the individual who extends such a gesture, this moment often becomes a touchstone, a point of moral clarity amidst the moral ambiguity of war. It can be a source of quiet pride, a personal affirmation of one's core values that transcends military duty. Moreover, such acts can serve as a buffer against the dehumanizing effects of prolonged conflict, offering a pathway to retain one's sense of self and empathy in an environment designed to erode both. In the quiet solitude of later years, these recollections often emerge not as tales of combat prowess, but as cherished evidence of humanity preserved. Another crucial layer involves the scientific understanding of empathy and altruism. Psychologically, these moments often activate mirror neurons, creating a shared emotional experience that transcends language barriers and ideological divides. The recognition of another's vulnerability or need can trigger an innate human response to alleviate suffering, even if that individual is officially designated as an adversary. This suggests that compassion isn't merely a learned behavior, but an intrinsic capacity, capable of overriding strong social conditioning under specific, intense circumstances. It speaks to a deep-seated desire for connection, a fundamental aspect of our species that persists even when actively suppressed. Consequently, these singular acts, seemingly isolated and insignificant in the grand scope of history, possess a powerful ripple effect. They are the stories that get told and retold, shaping not just individual memories, but also collective narratives. When veterans gather, it is often these moments of shared humanity, rather than the battles themselves, that resonate with the deepest emotional truth. They become parables, passed down through generations, underscoring the enduring power of connection and the potential for reconciliation even after the most bitter conflicts. These anecdotes offer crucial counterpoints to the prevailing narratives of animosity, suggesting that peace, however fragile, is always possible if the human heart remains open to connection. The enduring echo of these gestures, therefore, serves a vital purpose beyond the battlefield. They remind us that the capacity for kindness is not eradicated by conflict, but rather tested and at times affirmed in the most surprising ways. These stories become beacons, illuminating the path toward understanding and healing in a post-conflict world. They are not merely historical curiosities, but living lessons, demonstrating that even when the world demands division, the human spirit frequently finds ways to bridge the chasm with an outstretched hand or a silent, shared moment of recognition. This persistent thread of compassion, woven through the brutal tapestry of war, offers a profound testament to our collective resilience and our inherent yearning for connection. As we draw these intricate threads of human experience together, a profound pattern begins to emerge, not as a stark, singular declaration, but as a subtle, persistent undercurrent beneath the tumultuous surface of conflict. We have journeyed through moments where the rigid definitions of adversary and ally momentarily dissolved, revealing a landscape far more nuanced than the stark binaries often presented by history. These instances, seemingly disparate in their specific contexts, collectively illuminate a powerful truth about the enduring, almost inconvenient resilience of our shared humanity. They are not merely footnotes in a grand chronicle of warfare, but rather potent echoes that resonate with a deeper, more universal melody, challenging the very foundations of how we perceive division and connection. Beyond the immediate contours of these individual encounters, a compelling synthesis unfolds, suggesting that the human spirit, even when subjected to the most intense pressures of hostility and dehumanization, retains an innate capacity for recognition. It is in these interstitial spaces where the official narratives falter and the personal realities assert themselves that a different kind of understanding takes root. The act of seeing beyond the uniform, of sensing the shared vulnerability that lies beneath the hardened exterior, transcends mere intellectual acknowledgement. It is a visceral, often unspoken recognition that reverberates through the deepest chambers of our being, momentarily overriding the directives of enmity and the ingrained instincts of self-preservation. This confluence of experiences underscores how easily the constructed walls of animosity can be breached by the most unassuming gestures, revealing a common ground that political and ideological divides often obscure. The lasting imprint of these fleeting acts extends far beyond the immediate participants, shaping the very atmosphere of remembrance and reflection. They become silent testament to a fundamental truth: that while conflict may rage and ideologies clash, the threads of compassion, once woven, are remarkably difficult to sever. These insights are not about ending wars, for their scope is inherently more intimate, but rather about the survival of something precious within the human heart through the ordeal of war. They stand as quiet beacons, piercing through the fog of historical simplification, reminding us that even in the bleakest landscapes, the potential for grace and mutual understanding stubbornly persists. It is a subtle but profound commentary on the nature of human resilience, not merely the resilience to endure suffering, but the resilience to offer solace, to connect, and to find commonality, even with those deemed other. Reflecting on this profound journey, we are compelled to consider the cumulative weight of these revelations. They are not isolated sparks, but rather a constellation of moments that collectively illuminate a path toward a richer, more empathetic understanding of our own nature. This intricate tapestry, woven from unexpected kindnesses and moments of shared vulnerability, compels us to look beyond the surface, to listen for the whispers of humanity that often get drowned out by the clamor of conflict. It invites a deeper contemplation of what truly endures when all else seems to crumble, and how the smallest acts can possess the most monumental significance in shaping not just individual lives, but our collective perception of what it means to be truly human. It is this enduring quality, this persistent echo of connection, that now guides our thoughts towards a final, universal reflection on the essence of our shared existence. The sprawling, brutal tapestry of war is often depicted in stark, unyielding colors: the crimson of blood, the ash-gray of destruction, the suffocating blackness of despair. It is a narrative frequently dominated by grand strategies, heroic battles, and the tragic calculus of loss. Yet, as we have explored, woven into this grim fabric are threads of an entirely different hue, moments of unexpected, profound human connection that defy the very logic of conflict. These are not mere anomalies or convenient footnotes. They are, in fact, powerful revelations of our inherent nature, shining through the manufactured darkness with an almost defiant luminescence. They remind us that even when the world demands absolute enmity, the human spirit frequently finds a way to bridge the chasm, to recognize a shared heartbeat beneath the alien uniform. What these stories ultimately reveal is a powerful paradox, that in the crucible of extreme antagonism, the deepest capacities for empathy can sometimes be forged, or at the very least, unexpectedly unearthed. The act of offering a simple comfort, a moment of shared recognition, or even a silent acknowledgement of another's suffering becomes an almost revolutionary gesture. It shatters the carefully constructed walls of otherness that war erects, dissolving the abstract enemy into a tangible, vulnerable human being. This is not about forgetting the profound injustices or the terrible costs of conflict. Rather, it is about affirming that within the darkest chapters of our history, there has always been a persistent, undeniable current of shared humanity, flowing beneath the surface of division and animosity. It is a testament to the fact that our capacity for connection, for understanding, is not easily extinguished, even by the most concerted efforts to ignite hatred. The lasting impact of these quiet acts of compassion extends far beyond the immediate beneficiaries. For those who witnessed them, for those who carried their memory, these moments became indelible anchors in a sea of chaos. They offered proof that even when the world seemed consumed by an all-encompassing darkness, light could still be found, not in grand pronouncements or strategic victories, but in the simple, profound exchange between two souls. These narratives serve as a vital counterpoint to the prevailing cynicism about human nature, providing a reservoir of hope and a profound understanding of our collective resilience. They do not diminish the horrors of war, but rather they elevate our understanding of what it means to survive it with our humanity intact, or even, remarkably, deepened. They become echoes across time, whispering a truth that transcends the immediate context of battlefields and barbed wire. In contemplating these echoes of humanity, we are invited to consider their resonance in our own lives, far removed from the battlefields of the past. The lessons gleaned from these extraordinary instances of empathy in the face of extremity are not confined to history books. They are blueprints for navigating the subtle yet pervasive divisions that persist in our contemporary world. They challenge us to look beyond the labels, the ideologies, the superficial differences that so often isolate us from one another. Whether it's in our communities, our workplaces, or even within our own families, the opportunity to extend an unexpected kindness, to offer a moment of genuine recognition, or to simply listen with an open heart, echoes the profound power of those wartime gestures. It is a call to actively seek and cultivate the common ground, to remember that the human spirit, with all its complexities and vulnerabilities, yearns for connection above all else. Ultimately, the enduring message is not that kindness ends wars, for history tragically proves otherwise. Instead, it is that kindness survives them, persisting as an unbreakable thread woven into the very fabric of our being. It reminds us that even when the world is fractured and torn, the potential for compassion remains, a quiet flame that refuses to be extinguished. This understanding, born from the most harrowing circumstances, becomes a profound challenge for us all. The true practice, therefore, begins now in the quiet choices we make each day, in the way we choose to see and interact with those around us. For in every gesture of genuine human connection, in every moment where we choose empathy over indifference, we not only honor the echoes of those who came before us, but also actively shape a future where the heart's whisper of humanity can always be heard, louder than any clamor of division.